Now, WJZ's Purple Connection, brought to you by LifeBridge Health.
Definitely stunned, man. Thought we had it in the bag. Man. I don't know what else we can do.
The Ravens season comes to a heartbreaking end with a 26-24 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Welcome to Purple Connection. I'm Grace Grill. It's the final Purple Connection of the season, so we will recap last night's game and look ahead to what is expected to be a very interesting offseason for the Ravens. Sunday night's loss was the Ravens' season in a nutshell. You had a fourth quarter defensive collapse with injuries to key players. You saw the unmatched talent that the Ravens do have on this roster, but ultimately it not being enough to get it done as the Ravens go from being heavy Super Bowl favorites to missing the playoffs entirely for the first time since 2021. Lots to get to tonight on this season finale of Purple Connection. We are joined, as always, by 105.7 The Fans' Tim Barbalace and the Baltimore Banner's Kyle Goon joining us tonight. And guys, it was a hard way to go out for the Ravens last night. I guess I'll just get your instant reaction from what we watched last night. And Tim, we'll start with you.
Well, I think you hit it on the head in the open, Grace. It was just basically a game that felt like the entire season. The offense started out hot. They scored on the opening drive and then did nothing for the next 2+ quarters. The defense was great in the first half and then wilted down the stretch when Lamar Jackson finally put on the cape in the fourth quarter. And it was just so many emotions throughout this game. But ultimately, the Ravens were who they have been, and they just weren't good enough last night. And to finish the season 8-9, coming in with the expectations that they did, it's just a gut punch of a season.
Kyle, in the grand scheme of things, what is the level of disappointment of this Ravens season?
I mean, I think it's one of the most disappointing Ravens seasons ever. And obviously it's been happening in slow motion. They started out 1-5, and so we've known for some time this Ravens team is not really good enough to win a Super Bowl. But just that switch that flipped early on, that so many people, including myself, picked this Ravens team to win a Super Bowl, based on the talent that they brought back from last year, based on the talent that almost beat the Buffalo Bills on the road. I think it's got to be one of the most disappointing seasons ever. You have so many Hall of Famers in the future: Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins, Kyle Hamilton. Just to have an 8-9 season and just get so little done that they set out to do, I think it's one of the most disappointing Ravens seasons ever.
Well, I mean, watching that game was, for me, it was exhilarating because you're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we know that the Ravens are capable of, at least offensively. I mean, you just with the touchdown passes and vintage Lamar and the way he was able to move out there. We just hadn't seen that all season. Obviously, it comes down to a scenario that was talked about a lot going into this game. Of course, it coming down to a field goal. We've seen so many of these Ravens-Steelers rivalries be close games, and there was a lot of talk about, hey, if it comes down to it, has this rookie kicker Tyler Loop been tested enough to be put in that situation like it came down to last night? Tyler Loop did talk to the media after last night's game. We have some sound that we're going to play, and I'll have you guys react on the other side.
It's disappointing and it sucks, but also the nature of the job is I got to move on, and I got to get ready for the next kick, and that's next year, and tomorrow starts training for that, and spend the off season and the rest of the time getting ready for that. And I love this team and I love these guys, and I wish it ended different. I'm super blessed to be here, and it's been one of the most amazing experiences being a kicker for the Ravens. And
guys, I might be a little softer than you guys, but I was almost in tears watching that. I understand he's a professional at this point. I'm a big sister to a younger brother who's his age, so I'm watching that and I'm just oh my gosh, it was gut-wrenching. But Tim, I'll start with you. I mean, just the situation he was put in last night.
Well, I think you can start with the play before the kick. And a lot of people are questioning, why did Lamar Jackson just take a knee and you lose 2 yards? They wanted to get the ball in the middle of the field for Tyler Loop. But if you're John Harbaugh, if you're Todd Monken, maybe you hand it off to Derrick Henry and you get 3, 4, 5 more yards and make it closer. But I think two things can be true. At the end of the day, it was a 44-yard field goal. And Tyler Loop was 29 of 29 on field goal attempts, 50 yards and under. that's a kick he has to make. I understand how difficult it is to kick in Pittsburgh, but you got to make that kick if you're Tyler Loop.
Kyle?
Yeah, 100% agree with Tim there that that's the job. Tyler, even though he looked kind of small and childlike after that game, I mean, that's the job that he's been brought here to do. He's 24 years old. But I just kind of thought, and I did a column on this, it's been so hard, just this idea that he's replacing Justin Tucker, who's really one of the best kickers in NFL history and one of the best clutch kickers in all time. I mean, he hit a big field goal in Denver during the Ravens playoff run when he was a rookie. Justin Tucker was sort of a one-of-a-kind performer, regardless what happened off the field, and it was always big shoes to fill. And then in that big moment, you have a rookie playing for everything. I think that's never happened before in the last week of regular season history, having that kind of magnitude of kick, and it was just too much for Tyler Loop.
Yeah, it was. You never wanted it to come down to that situation. And the other thing that we've talked about all day today is just the defensive collapse. I mean, really, we've been talking about this all season. And on both teams, like, I don't have the actual numbers in front of me, but, like, you're sitting there watching that on just the teams trading touchdowns and the missed coverages, and let alone the blown tackles and stuff. But you're like, that had to have set some type of record for the amount of blown coverages in, like, the final 5 minutes of that game, guys.
This has been a theme, and you can go back to 2021. The Ravens, by far and away, have the worst fourth-quarter defense in football. That spans now 3 defensive coordinators, Wink Martindale, Mike McDonald, and now Zach Orr. And a common theme throughout that entire stretch, and something we've been saying ad nauseum this year on Purple Connection, where the heck was the pass rush? They just couldn't get after Aaron Rodgers. And that was without no DK Metcalf, no Darnell Washington. You gave up 4 scoring drives in the final 5 possessions that the Steelers had. You had back-to-back possessions to end the game, but both of those ended in touchdowns for Pittsburgh. And
Kyle, just the injuries too. I mean, we saw Kyle Hamilton go out there too, which is concerning. But you definitely saw the impact that had in that final quarter. And Aaron Rodgers, I mean, come on, he's a vet. He took advantage of it. They went over the middle and they couldn't get anything going.
Yeah, really, before that injury, Kyle Hamilton had 9 tackles in basically one half of football. And after in my view, the Steelers offense had no fear of what the Ravens can do because Kyle is such a versatile piece. He can rush the passer. He's been one of the team's best pass rushers when they pulled that trigger. He's great in coverage. You look at the guys who fell on double moves. Sorry, Darius Washington, welcome back from your injury. But if Kyle Hamilton had been out there instead of Darius Washington, I can't help but wonder, could the Ravens have stopped one of those touchdown drives?
We will talk about this more in the coming block. We gotta take a break in just a little bit, so make this quick, guys. But when you look at what is ahead this offseason for the Ravens, what do you believe is the biggest need?
We don't have enough time for that, Grace. Look, they can't be status quo. We know that. And organizationally, you have to look inward. This isn't just a John Harbaugh thing. This isn't just a player thing. This isn't even just an Eric DeCosta thing. They have to operate differently than they have been because it hasn't been good enough in this Lamar Jackson era.
Kyle, did they miss their window?
I've been wondering that. And honestly, the word I was going to use for what they need to improve, trenches. Offensive line holes, defensive line holes. That's how the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl last year. Those were areas where the Ravens were lacking on both sides of the ball this year.
Well, there are lots of words that can be used to describe this Ravens season and team and all the things, but we're going to give you our words coming up next when we play What's the Word. Stay with us. We got more Purple Connection after this.
A Purple Connection, brought to you by LifeBridge Health. This is the Purple Connection, brought to you by LifeBridge Health.
All right, welcome back to Purple Connection. I'm Grace Girl, joined by Tim Barbalais and Kyle Goon. It's time now to play What's the Word, where we're going to throw out a word to fill in the blank for a phrase. So we'll start with our first phrase for What's the Word. And Tim, I'll start with you. The 2025 Ravens season was...
a failure. There's no other word to use for me. When you're talking about a season in which you entered as the prohibitive Super Bowl favorite all across the board, whatever sports book you want to look at, and to finish the season with a losing record, it's hard to fathom. How much talk were we having all offseason long? This is the best roster in the history of the franchise. This is the best roster in the NFL. For them to not make the playoffs and finish with a losing record, if I would have told you that back in August, you would have said that I was crazy, but here we are.
Kyle, what you got?
Frustrating. I mean, I just think of the emotion. I think of how we saw flashes. I mean, from that first game in Buffalo where the Ravens really ran wild over the Bills but still lost the game, to this game, the bookend where you see the best of Lamar and it's still, not good enough because of a missed kick. You just saw glimpses of the team you thought the Ravens could be, but way too far and few in between.
The word I'm going to use is collapse. Like, this was my first full season covering this team. And I mean, I say this all the time. I came from Carolina, right? I got a text the other day. It was like, we live in a world where the Carolina Panthers have made the playoffs and the Ravens didn't, right? And it's just, it's frustrating. It's wasted. It's a collapse of just going from heavy favorites to not even making it. And we saw it on all levels. It was the offense never getting into rhythm. It was the defense not being able to figure it out again. You thought maybe they would because of last season, but they definitely have a lot of question marks, and maybe Lamar Jackson is one of them. I can't believe we're having this conversation, but I think it's a valid conversation. So that moves to our next what's the word. Lamar Jackson this season was what, Tim?
He was not himself. You saw vintage Lamar Jackson in the Buffalo game. You saw some moments against the Browns week 2. The play that he made, the first touchdown pass to Zay Flowers, the 50-yarder, that was vintage Lamar Jackson right there. But we haven't seen that type of play in months. And injuries have derailed his season. He never looked the same coming back from the hamstring injury. And then it was the back, and he didn't have the burst. He was in the biggest slump of his career for a while there. It's just, he was not Lamar Jackson. He was not the guy that he was in 2024, in large part because of injury.
Kyle, before I get to your word, Tim, you called it a slump. Do you think that's what it is? It's a slump and not a decline?
I think it's a slump. I think, look, he's about to turn 29 years old. This guy's not 35. He's not 42 like Aaron Rodgers. Do I think that he's going to be the guy that he was in 2019 in terms of rushing for 1,200 yards and having that type of burst? No. But we're only a season removed in which he authored one of the greatest statistical seasons a quarterback has ever had in the history of the NFL. I refuse to think that that guy is gone at age 29.
Kyle?
Yeah, same. The word I use is mercurial, which is, you could describe Lamar Jackson that way in some ways, personality-wise, throughout his career. But this time, I struggled to understand when he came back from injury and didn't have a touchdown pass or a touchdown run for 3 straight games. And then he kind of comes out of his shell and just shows you enough of that old Lamar to make you believe. I sort of, like Tim, don't believe that this is a decline. I just think he wasn't 100%. Maybe he wasn't confident after he came back from his injury. But the Lamar Jackson we saw at the end of the season is franchise quarterback Lamar Jackson. It's enough to make you think, no, this guy can still do it. You can still build a Super Bowl team around him.
That was the most frustrating thing for me watching that. It's like, okay, you're watching the brilliance of nobody, I think, when we have this discussion of craziness of him being traded and those rumors and stuff, it's like, nobody's denying that he is the most talented person out there. But can that talent alone take a team over the finish line, I think will become a big conversation piece this offseason. And so will the entire state of the franchise. So that moves us to our final what's the word phrase. What's the word that you would describe the state of the Ravens franchise right now, Tim?
In flux. And from 2024 to this season, the Ravens ran it back. They had both their offensive coordinators stay, obviously John Harbaugh stay. It was largely the same roster. You're not going to say the same thing about next year. We'll see what happens with John Harbaugh. I think at a minimum, both coordinators will not be back next season. At least one of them will be gone. There's a ton of free agents that the Ravens have. Lamar Jackson has a $75 million cap hit. There's a ton of decisions that this team needs to make about their future. and they seem at a bit of a crossroads right now. This is an organization that loves stability, but things aren't going to be stable in Baltimore this offseason.
Kyle.
Yeah, I go with upended and kind of going off of what Tim just said there. I think the Ravens have great pride in their stability. I think they have great pride in doing things the Raven way, from coaching from John Harbaugh for 18 years, the second longest tenured coach in the NFL, to Eric DeCosta, who's the successor to Ozzie Newsome. And doing things the Ravens way did not work last year. And that is just such an upending to this team's culture, its beliefs about its values. You can't just do things the same way they've always been done when you have a team that's competing. I mean, the Orioles kind of went through that themselves this last offseason. And I think the Ravens will have a similarly stringent view of their own process this offseason for them.
One of the things, I know there's been a lot of talk, about John Harbaugh and his seat getting hotter throughout the season. I've always kind of advocated for, okay, you're saying, okay, we can't do things the Ravens way, but one of the Ravens ways is consistency. And I think that is very valuable in this league. I mean, we're going to get to it in a league checkup of just how many vacancies there are throughout the league as of right now. But one thing I heard from players, you heard it today, we heard all throughout the season, it was fundamentals, right? So just playing devil's advocate here, when it comes down to that, is it more player driven of them just not, they're the ones that got to go out and play, right? Or is that more on coaching? Which one do you put the more blame on this season, Tim?
I hate to say across the board and kind of straddle the line, but it's everything. Eric DeCosta had a bad offseason. Eric DeCosta did not do enough during the season. This roster was overrated. In the trenches, they had no pass rush. The offensive line got bullied. But then you can go to coaching and say, who played better in 2025 than they did in 2024? So across the board, they have to wear it.
Yeah, I just feel coaching in this instance, I agree with Tim that the roster is overrated, but coaching in this instance, you could have won the Bills game. You could have competed more in the Rams game. You could have competed more in the Bengals game. You could have beaten the Steelers at home. You could have beaten the Patriots at home. There were games on the table for this team to win. Games that they led late, games that they couldn't come back in, games that they could have made coaching decisions that could have put them out of being a field goal away in Pittsburgh from qualifying for the playoffs. So I just kind of look at the A to B. If you coached any one of those games better, you could have been in the playoffs this year.
I think it's crazy that I don't disagree with you guys, but where we were at the start of the season to now be at the point where we're like, this Ravens roster was overrated, and now they're in a spot. That's why I kind of asked, like, have they missed their window? Because now they're in a spot where they got to make some really big decisions on some key guys. I mean, they locked up Mark Andrews a couple weeks ago. So I found that interesting, but we talked to Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kolar both in the locker room today. I'm going to play some Isaiah Likely sound if we have it, and then I'll get you guys to react on the other side.
Fundamentals. And I feel like, speaking for the offensive wise, it's just, having drives or have explosive plays where it's, two play touchdowns or something like that, or we'll have one penalty or one lost yardage play where it's, a stall drive, and it's, having an explosive offense as we have. I tell everybody, I feel like our offense should score every time we get the ball.
Is this a place you want to continue? Is this a place you want to continue to?
For sure. At the end of the day, this is a team that took a chance on me coming out of college, and I tell the Ravens, tell the fans, every time I get a chance to, that I give y'all everything I got, because y'all the ones that took a chance on me when I came out.
Everybody we talked to today said they wanted to stay. I know, Kyle, you were in there too. We got to take a quick break coming up, but what are the odds that they can keep another guy in that tight end room together?
I would say 0. I think Isaiah Likely is definitely gone. The Ravens ended up choosing Mark Andrews, which was a little bit of a curious choice because Isaiah Likely is 4 years younger than Mark Andrews, and Andrews, franchise leader in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. But in the 5 games since he signed that contract extension, he has 11 catches for 90 yards. It just hasn't been good enough.
Kyle?
Yeah, I also think it's over for this tight end group, and I think Isaiah Likely is out. Maybe Charlie out. We'll see if they can get a friendly deal done. But Pat Ricard also was talking about this today and said, yeah, I think I would love to see these guys back, but he does get the sense of an ending for this group that's been very tight-knit over the last 4 years.
Lots of potential turnover for the Ravens, and there's already been some turnover around the league. We got to take a quick break, but coming up on Purple Connection, we're going to take a look around the league.
A Purple Connection, brought to you by LifeBridge Health. The League Checkup, brought to you by LifeBridge Health. Care bravely.
All right, and welcome back to Purple Connection. It's time for the League Checkup, and man, after the end of the regular season, there was a lot of shakeup already in the league. Well, first off, we got the playoff picture set, and you got the Seattle Seahawks emerging as the Super Bowl favorites for this year, and then there's a firestorm of firings, we will say, around the NFL. Falcons, Raiders, Browns, Cardinals, they all parted ways with their head coaches, and there's a lot of new faces in the playoffs. So, guys, I guess I'll just start with the playoff picture being set and the Seahawks now the favorites. Thoughts?
Yeah, Seattle, that was a really impressive win that they had in San Francisco Saturday night. Brock Purdy and the 49ers were rolling heading into that football game. We just saw them the week prior in that shootout against the Bears, and for them to not even score a touchdown at home, that's just hats off to Mike McDonald. I think he should be coach of the year.
Oh, that's killer, considering where he was.
Yeah.
Kyle, what stood out to you about the final week?
I was just going to say, yeah, when I saw, the Seahawks had won, I was like, oh boy, Ravens fans are about to be mad. I mean, 2 years ago, they advocated. I mean, the team went to the AFC Championship, and some Ravens fans were advocating, fire John Harbaugh and hire Mike McDonald as the head coach of the football team. And that's not generally how business works in Baltimore or elsewhere, but just the way that he structured the defense and Sam Darnold kind of repeating his Renaissance performance from last year in Minnesota. It's been very impressive. I want to see if he can do it in the playoffs because he wilted last year, but it's been very, very impressive.
Speaking of just firings and the shakeups among coaches, were any of the firings today shocking to you, or the timing of them, Tim?
I would say no. I think the one coach that maybe Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland. Yeah. I've always thought really highly of him. To win Coach of the Year 2 times in Cleveland and winning a playoff game in Cleveland, I think that tells you what kind of coach Kevin Stefanski is. But things went south quickly. The Deshaun Watson contract has really killed them over the past couple of years. Oof. They haven't been able to find that quarterback there. I get it. I'm not surprised by that, but don't be surprised to see Kevin Stefanski land somewhere and be successful.
Kyle, any of those firings stand out to you?
Well, I'd like to say in Cleveland, they didn't fire Andrew Berry, the architect of the Deshaun Watson trade. So you're firing the coach, but not the GM who screwed your franchise. But I also look at Atlanta. I think that's a very turbulent franchise. Only 2 years of Raheem Morris, and he didn't get good quarterback luck. I mean, immediately they saddled him with a weird situationship with Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix in the same year. And, Michael Penix hasn't really been healthy, and Kirk Cousins is on the decline. So I don't think Raheem Morris, given what Atlanta did down the stretch, was given enough of a shot in just 2 years.
Well, you brought up one of the quarterbacks from that class, a highly touted quarterback class, and there's some new blood in the playoffs this year. I don't know do we have the graphic to pull it? There we go. Look at this. This is from CBS on NFL. Look at all those new faces that are now in the playoffs. Then you got old man Rodgers up there with 11 playoffs wins. But this is a pretty wide open playoff field, guys.
I think it's exactly that. This is as wide open as it's been in years, and especially in the AFC. When you think no Patrick Mahomes because the AFC Championship is the Arrowhead Invitational, don't have to worry about that this year. No Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, a ton of new faces in the playoffs in the AFC.
All right, we got to take a quick break, but stay with us. We'll wrap up Purple Connection on the other side.
A Purple Connection, brought to you by LifeBridge Health. And now, Game Day Advice, brought to you by Rice Law. For the best advice, call Rise.
And welcome back to our final edition of Purple Connection, and we're going to end it by giving the Ravens some off-season advice. So, Tim, we'll start with you. What's your off-season advice for the Ravens?
Don't be afraid of change, and whether that's change in the coaching staff, change in how Eric DeCosta operates in the draft, maybe being more aggressive in trading up, not worrying so much about comp picks, being more aggressive in free agency. Don't be afraid of change, Ravens.
All right, Kyle, what you got?
Go after the big boys. Kind of going back after what I was saying in A block, the trench play was lacking. Get some guards. I would love to see Tyler Linderbaum come back and be a Raven. And the dime store pass rushers, not working anymore. Go get a big boy who can actually get after the quarterback.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us all season long. That will do it for this final edition of Purple Connection. Hopefully the Ravens take your advice, and we'll be talking about it and keep you updated here on WJZ all off season long. Have a great night.